is there a reason why you should ever take a pay cut at your job or when applying for other jobs? I think there's only one case where you should take a pay cut, and it comes down to your peace of mind and your health, right? Like, if you're in a job situation where your peace of mind is stifled because maybe you have some, issues with coworkers, or, you have a boss who's kind of a problem and they're causing a lot of stress in your life, right? Like, there's maybe, there's a lot more responsibility on your shoulders because, maybe your boss isn't taking, isn't carrying their weight. So the weight by default is getting carried over to you. Or like I said, it's maybe someone's gossiping about you, or, there's just a lot of drama and there's a lot of unproductive conversation. Then I think, yes, obviously, going somewhere else is the ideal situation, because you can't flourish, maybe not even flourish at the job, but just flourish in life, right? Like, you're gonna go home and you're gonna complain to your wife or complain to your family, or just, potentially also, get involved with things that are not, that are harmful, like vices, right? That are going to dim you, right? And take away sort of the pain that you're feeling when you're working your job. So it only makes sense if, obviously, like for me, I've had to take, a minor pay cut recently, right? Due to the fact that I just had a really shitty boss, right? I had a really terrible boss, and the issue with him was obviously, just not taking most of the responsibility that, was demanded from his position. And that obviously hurt me. So, and then also, far from home, right? That's another thing that sort of, it can be a contributor to your, the stress and whatever else you're dealing with. So, if it makes sense for you, it makes sense for you. Like, for example, if you're taking a pay cut, right, and it's going to hurt your ability to pay your bills, right, then maybe obviously you might want to wait it out and, continue to source for jobs. But if you're not really affected by the pay cut, where it's like kind of like insignificant, it's not really, the pay cut isn't going to hurt your ability to continue living your life, and it's not going to stress you out, then go for it, right? Like, for example, if you're making $60,000 a year, right, and then your pay cut, maybe you make, I don't know, $500 less a month, $700 less a month, and let's say you make $55,000 or $54,000, $53,000, right? Is that big of a deal, right? For some of you, depending on what kind of expenses you have, it is, right? But again, obviously, if you're budgeting intelligently and you're kind of just buying things that you need and not buying things that, you want, like ordering out and, all of those sorts of things, then you'll be fine, right? But the key is to not need that much money, right? Because if you don't need that much money, then you're not going to need the job. You're not going to need the position that you're in. So that's really something I think a lot of you guys need to consider, right? Because, there's some situation, like, let me just be very blunt and honest about this. There's some things that you're just never going to be able to solve, especially in a corporate environment. There's some things that you'll never be able to avoid. And there's some things that will just never, depending on what job field you're in, there's some things you'll just never be able to avoid. So, obviously the things I mentioned in this video are some things that there's some places where you don't have to deal with certain things like this, right? You don't have to deal with a shitty boss. You don't have to deal with coworkers that are toxic and constantly gossip, right? Like right now, the boss I work for, he's great, right? No gossip, no drama, really just about doing what we need to do and, getting the work done and going home, right? And everyone I work with, right, same thing. Just doing what we have to do and go home. There's really not too much, bickering back and forth about this person, or this person said this person did that, right? All of that sort of, unproductive conversation, as some would say. So figure out your situation, see if you can afford to take one, if you are in a situation where you don't like where you're at, and then make the move, right? Don't be afraid. The biggest thing that'll hold you back from getting a new job or taking a new position, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter, just getting yourself out of that situation is being comfortable, right? Like, if you've been in a position for a year or a few years, right, obviously you're comfortable, and it might be sort of like a scary situation for you to get out of there, right? So don't be afraid, right? Be afraid of what would happen if you didn't do what you did, if you didn't make a decision, if you didn't, you know, put yourself in a different environment, right? Like even me thinking right now, just back to, you know, how I was just over a year ago, I wouldn't, you know, obviously I don't think I'd be in a good position, right? I don't think I'd be happier. I don't think I'd be, you know, healthy, right? Like right now I'm a little healthier. I'm able to hit the gym more because I'm closer to my house, right? So there's certain things that I enjoy now that I wasn't able to enjoy, you know, 6 months ago. So and the other thing as well that I kind of touched on earlier, but I'll kind of touch on it again in more detail, is the energy that you bring home, right, is important as well, right? Because you can have a stressful job and not like it, and you know, during those 8 hours, obviously, you know, you're in a shitty mood, right? But the thing is the thing that's very problematic about that is that not only does that 8 hours of, you know, not feeling good or feeling stressed or just, you know, hating what you're doing in the moment, you know, affect you there and then, but it also, you know, can spill over into, you know, the off hours when you get off. And then obviously, you know, if you're you know, taking that into your personal life or your relationships, or not only your relationships, but just like I said, you know, you could fall into vices, you could fall into things that, you know, numb the pain that you feel, right? Because you're not willing to, what, like I said earlier, step out and, you know, change your environment, right? And again, that's uncomfortable, right? Because if you've been doing the same thing, right, you know everybody, you know where to go, you know what to do. It's kind of sort of like a it's like an everyday routine, right? And humans, for the most part, like we don't like breaking our routine for the most part. So, you know, you don't want to get stuck in vices, and you don't want to get stuck in things that are numbing your pain. You want to face what you need to face and deal with it, right, accordingly. And like I said, to the degree that you don't deal with it is to the degree that that pain is going to spill over and affect you, right? Like, and for me, right, I got to the point where obviously I was caught up in certain, you know, bad habits, and just, you know, not hitting the gym as much because of, you know, just a lot of different things as far as just being exhausted, being stressed, and also being far away from my house. So that was sort of like, you know, playing a big role in my my mental health, especially off the clock, right? Like the last thing you want is to have stress at work and then also at home, right? So, you know, work's enough, right? We're there 40 hours a week, sometimes 50 hours a week. The last thing we need is for that 40, 50 hours of, you know, not enjoying our time or, you know, hating what we're doing to spill over into the hours that, you know, could be used effectively to invest or to, you know, build something else, right? So take that in mind, right? Like the pay cut that you may take, right, it might actually be worth it because you're, like I said, you know, for example, being close to home is huge, right? You save a lot of time, right? If you save an hour each day going home in traffic, right? Or you save an hour or, you know, 30 minutes going in and then an hour each day going back, right? You know, obviously you're able to get maybe a little bit more sleep, but also you're able to have more time to yourself after you get off work, right? Because you don't have to sit in traffic. You don't have to obviously make that commute. So there's a lot of different things that go into taking a pay cut. But again, if it makes sense for you financially, obviously that's huge, right? Like if you can't do it, if you can't pay your bills, then anything I say to you right now isn't going to matter. But if you're able to pay your bills, then I think that it's worth it, right? I think it's worth it for your health, for, you know, keeping your mental game sharp, and just obviously giving you more energy to focus on other things, and you know, obviously be happier, right? You want to be happy around the people you love. You want to be happy if you have kids. You want to be happy around your kids. You want to be in a good mood for the most part, right? Obviously you'll have your days, but do you want to be like that every day, right? So yeah, guys, that's it. That's all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them down below. And as always, I will talk to you guys soon. Peace.